David Chin sits in conference room 4B, blindsided. No warning. No explanation. 3 internal affairs investigators he's never met slide a folder across the table. Surveillance photos of him, time-stamped and catalogued like a criminal. Mr. Chin, how long have you been leaking confidential case files to defense attorneys? The question detonates in his mind. 23 years with Child Protective Services. Hundreds of children protected. And now this, an accusation so specific it sounds rehearsed, so false it feels designed. They show him evidence. Emails with his digital signature discussing sealed cases with defense attorneys. Bank records showing $47,000 deposited into an offshore account in his name. Case after case where the defense coincidentally exploited procedural weaknesses David would know. This is impossible, David whispers. I would never. The metadata's been verified. These emails originated from your workstation, during your hours with your credentials. David realizes this isn't an investigation. It's a presentation of predetermined guilt. Someone built this trap with precision, using his own access against him. You're suspended effective immediately. But, credentials. Now. As security escorts him out, colleagues won't meet his eyes. They already know. Suspended without pay. Badge seized. Career evaporated in 4 hours. David tries calling his union rep, voicemail. His supervisor Teresa, she won't answer. The director, unavailable. Colleagues who once sought his advice now reroute when they see him. The official letter arrives by courier, pending investigation into ethical violations and potential criminal conduct related to unauthorized disclosure of protected minor information. Criminal conduct. They're threatening prison. David tries accessing the case management system from home to retrieve his documentation. Login denied. Credentials inactive. Every digital door locked. They've erased him from the system, cutting off access to any evidence proving his innocence. His daughter Emily video calls from college, cheerful and unaware. David can't tell her yet. They talk about midterms and roommate drama, the last moments of before. That evening, a letter from the district attorney's office arrives. Our office has received a referral regarding potential violations of state confidentiality laws and financial crimes. No charges filed at this time. Retain legal counsel immediately. David's wife Lynn reads it 3 times, her face cycling through disbelief and fear. $47,000? How can they have evidence of things that didn't happen? Someone built this, David says quietly. The administrative hearing feels like theater. David sits with Bernard Katz, the only attorney he could afford, 72 years old, office in a strip mall but sharp-eyed and experienced. 3 agency attorneys present their case with surgical precision. Emails flash on screen. David's address, his signature, discussing confidential cases with defense attorneys. Financial records showing the offshore account. Statistical analysis showing defense attorneys won 23% more often in David's cases. Katz demands to see the source metadata, server logs, IP addresses. That information is part of an ongoing criminal investigation and protected from disclosure. The lead attorney responds smoothly. So my client defends himself against evidence he can't examine? Katz snaps. It's a trap wrapped in procedure. The evidence looks damning, but they can't access the underlying data. The criminal investigation provides cover to withhold information, but no actual charges means no discovery rights. Witnesses testify. A young caseworker. David always knew things before they became official. I thought he was experienced, but now. His mentorship reframed as suspicious insider knowledge. Then Teresa takes the stand, his supervisor, the woman who reported him. She won't look at him. I noticed irregularities 8 months ago. Private phone calls. Closed-door meetings. He seemed evasive. Normal behavior weaponized. The leak hits before the hearing concludes. A legal watchdog blog. CPS insider allegedly sold case files. Children at risk. David's name isn't published yet, but his photo is blurred just enough for ethics, while ensuring everyone in the field recognizes him. Within hours it spreads. Local news picks it up. Social media explodes. His phone fills with unknown numbers. Reporters. Former colleagues asking if he's okay, really asking if they'll be implicated. Emily calls from college crying. Dad, someone posted your picture in a true crime forum. They're calling you a predator. Not a leaker. A predator. The narrative mutating beyond control. David's pension, 23 years of contributions, frozen pending investigation outcomes. No job. No income. No reputation. No way to fight back. Friends stop calling. Neighbors avoid eye contact. Professional contacts don't return emails. The silence is coordinated, self-protective. Association with David has become toxic. Lynn finds him in his office, surrounded by commendations and service awards, all suddenly meaningless. We can't afford the mortgage without your income. The attorney wants a $15,000 retainer just to consider the case. Their savings? Maybe 8 weeks. David sits in the ruins of his reputation, understanding that this was never about justice. With nothing but time and rage, David begins reconstructing his career from memory and personal notes he'd kept outside the system, a habit from his early days. He maps every case he'd flagged as suspicious but was told to close. Every investigation that ended abruptly. Every time he was reassigned right before a case became public. A pattern emerges across 12 years. 7 cases involving well-connected families. All closed despite evidence suggesting ongoing danger. All overridden by the same administrative office. All with the same outcome. Superficial investigations, diffused blame, no accountability. David pulls news archives. 3 of those children were later injured in the exact scenarios he'd warned about. 1 died. He'd written detailed concerns on each case. Those concerns are missing from official records now, scrubbed clean. But David kept copies in personal notebooks, never digitized, never accessible to the system. One name appears adjacent to all 7 cases. Evelyn Reeves, now Deputy Director, second in command to Director Michelson. The woman who signed David's suspension order. David creates a timeline. Every case closure coincides with a career advancement for someone in Michelson's inner circle. Promotions, transfers, conference opportunities, merit bonuses, not bribes, incentives for convenient blindness. Twist. David finds a local news article from 8 years ago about a reform initiative led by Michelson, promising streamlined case processing to reduce system burden. The initiative coincides exactly with when problematic cases started being closed prematurely. The reform wasn't about efficiency, it was about covering up failures before they became scandals. And David, with his institutional memory and meticulous documentation, was the only one who could prove it. David tracks down Marcus Webb, a former IT contractor for CPS who left abruptly 3 years ago. Marcus lives 2 counties over, works at a tech startup, and looks nervous when David shows up at his apartment. "You shouldn't be here," Marcus says immediately. "I need to know what you saw." Marcus hesitates, then lets him in. "You were one of the good ones, Chin. That's why they're destroying you." Marcus explains, the agency's case management system has admin-level access allowing retroactive edits without logging changes, if you have executive credentials. He'd raised concerns about it being used to alter closed cases. Within a month, his contract was terminated, he was paid $50,000 to sign an NDA, and he was quietly erased. Who had that access? Executive level only. Michelson. Reeves. Maybe 2 others. David feels the ground shift. His frame wasn't built in months, it was constructed over years, using his own digital activity, waiting for the right moment to deploy. Why now? David asks. Federal audit. After the Thompson kid died last year, HHS mandated oversight. If auditors dig deep enough, old cases get reviewed. Cases like yours. Marcus slides a thumb drive across the table. I kept backups before they fired me. Illegal as hell, but... He looks David in the eye. Original metadata. Shows when files were actually edited, most changes made years after cases closed. During the exact periods when federal audits were scheduled. David maps careers instead of cases, using public records, LinkedIn profiles, and agency directories. Every caseworker who stayed silent during his hearing. Every supervisor who couldn't recall details. Every colleague who suddenly became unavailable, they all share something. Upward mobility during periods when problematic cases were closed. Sarah Connolly, who testified about his suspicious knowledge, promoted to senior caseworker 6 months after testifying against him, transferred to a cushy assignment in the suburbs. Marcus Delgado, who provided the statistical analysis, received a merit bonus and now supervises a training program. Teresa Wade, who initiated the complaint, promoted to senior supervisor 8 months ago, right when the federal audit was announced. Not bribes. Career incentives perfectly aligned with institutional silence. David realizes Michelson didn't build a conspiracy. He built a culture where self-preservation and career advancement require looking away. Question nothing. Document nothing. Remember nothing. David had been the anomaly. The one who asked questions without asking for anything in return. Who kept personal notes. Who remembered cases after they were closed. Who cared more about dead children than his next promotion. That made him unpredictable. Dangerous. Expendable. David receives a call from Gregory Lorne, an attorney who represented families in 2 of the 7 cases David flagged. I've been watching what they did to you. I have clients who testify about case irregularities, but they're terrified. Twist. Lorne adds, one of my clients, Jessica Martinez, mother in case number 6891, she recorded a meeting with Evelyn Reeves 3 years ago. Reeves explicitly told her that if she pushed for further investigation into her daughter's injuries, CPS would ensure she never saw her children again. I've had that recording for 3 years, waiting for someone brave enough to use it. Are you that person? David receives a call from an unlisted number. Evelyn Reeves herself. David, this has gone far enough. You're hurting yourself and your family. Her voice is calm, almost maternal, the tone she uses with resistant parents. I didn't do what you accused me of. The evidence says otherwise. But we're not unreasonable people. The agency is prepared to offer you a settlement. Full pension restoration. Sealed NDA. A private letter of recommendation. Medical retirement with benefits. You walk away whole. Your daughter finishes college without her father's name destroyed. Your wife keeps her job without the stigma. David's hand tightens on the phone. They've researched his pressure points precisely. In exchange for? You stop digging. You accept the separation. You move on with your life. You sign a statement acknowledging procedural errors on both sides, no admission of wrongdoing. Clean break. And if I don't? Reeves's voice drops. Then the DA proceeds with criminal charges. Wire fraud. HIPAA violations. Computer crimes. Federal charges. David. You're looking at 5 to 8 years. Is your pride worth your freedom? Your family's future? The line goes dead. David sits in silence, understanding the calculation. They're offering restoration, proof they fear what he might expose. But they're also showing him the cost of refusal. Prison, bankruptcy, total destruction. David stops acting like a defendant. He starts thinking like an investigator. He studies how institutional corruption survives. Misdirection, deniability, and the illusion of process. He doesn't attack Michelson directly, that's what they expect. Instead, he destabilizes the ecosystem. Through attorney Lorne, David files requests, not for his own case but for aggregated child welfare data across the region. Case closure rates. Statistical anomalies in wealthy districts. Patterns of supervisor overrides. Each request is small, legal, unremarkable. But together they create friction. He sends anonymous tips to state licensing boards about caseworkers who violated protocols in specific cases. Nothing career-ending, just enough to trigger compliance reviews. Interviews. Nervous questions. Paperwork that demands answers. He contacts families from the 7 cases, offering to connect them with Lorne. 3 agree to participate. Their testimonies create additional pressure. David identifies current caseworker Nina Torres, who's being positioned exactly as he was. Assigned to cases that don't add up, praised publicly, isolated quietly. She's being built as the next scapegoat. David makes contact through a mutual colleague. They're going to do to you what they did to me. Document everything. Every directive. Every override. Every conversation. Do you understand? Nina, terrified but desperate, agrees. Nina begins documenting in real time, emails, directives, override orders. When supervisors tell her to close cases, she requests written justification, as is her right. Those justifications contradict earlier directives. David feeds her questions that force administrators to lie in writing or expose inconsistencies. Evelyn Reeves personally orders Nina to close the councilman case despite evidence of ongoing neglect. Nina documents the order, then forwards it to David. David doesn't leak it to the press. Instead, he sends it anonymously to the State Child Welfare Ombudsman, a watchdog office designed to investigate exactly this kind of pressure. The ombudsman opens an inquiry into case closure patterns. Not into David's situation specifically, into systemic issues. Michelson's office is forced to respond to procedural questions. Their explanations contradict. The perfect system shows cracks. Meanwhile, Lorne files a civil rights lawsuit on behalf of the Martinez family, using the recording of Reeves's threat. The lawsuit names the agency, Michelson, and Reeves personally. Media coverage shifts. Initial stories focused on David's alleged crimes. Now they're asking broader questions. Why were so many high-risk cases closed prematurely? What happened to the children? David receives a panicked call from Marcus. Someone tried to access my server remotely. They're looking for the backups. Did they get in? No. But David, they know I have something. They're desperate. A state legislative committee announces oversight hearings into child welfare failures following media coverage and the ombudsman's preliminary findings. David is subpoenaed, not as a defendant, but as a witness with institutional knowledge. Lorne coaches him, don't be angry. Don't be bitter. Be factual. Let the documents speak. David testifies calmly, walking through the 7 cases. The missing documentation. The administrative overrides. The children who died. He introduces Marcus's metadata backups, showing case files edited years after closure, during periods when federal audits were scheduled. He doesn't accuse anyone directly. He simply presents facts. Evelyn Reeves testifies next. She denies knowledge of any impropriety. Lorne introduces the Martinez recording, Reeves's voice threatening a mother. Reeves claims it's fabricated. The metadata proves it isn't. Michelson is called. He claims administrative privilege. The committee chair denies it. Under questioning, Michelson admits case files may have been updated for clarity, but insists nothing improper occurred. Lorne introduces the financial incentive structure. Bonuses tied to reduced case backlogs, promotions tied to low incident rates in wealthy districts. Then Nina Torres testifies. She describes being pressured to close the councilman case. She presents written directives from Reeves contradicting agency policy. She explains how she was being positioned to take blame if the case went wrong. The room turns. Not with outrage, with uncomfortable recognition. This isn't one corrupt official. This is structural. The hearing ends with no arrests. No dramatic firings. But the agency is placed under federal monitoring for 3 years. Michelson announces early retirement. Evelyn Reeves is reassigned pending administrative review, transferred to a policy desk with no case authority. The interim director calls David personally. We'd like you back, Mr. Chin. Full reinstatement. Back pay. Restored pension. Public apology. David sits in his home office looking at the offer letter. Everything he lost returned. Almost. We need people like you. People with integrity. No, David says quietly. I'm sorry? You can't give me back what you took. My reputation, people will always wonder if the smoke meant fire. My daughter still gets harassed online. My wife still flinches when I mention work. My faith in this system, gone. We're trying to make this right. You're trying to make this quiet. David stands. There's a difference. He walks away from the offer, from the agency, from 23 years of service. But he leaves behind something more valuable than his career. Nina Torres, now protected by whistleblower status, continuing his work. Marcus's metadata backups, now part of official record, preventing future digital frame-ups. Attorney Lorne, armed with precedent, representing 5 other caseworkers who've come forward. A month later, David sits in a coffee shop, reading news coverage of the federal monitoring agreement. A young caseworker approaches nervously. Mr. Chin? I just wanted to say thank you. I was about to quit. But after what you did, someone has to stay and fix this. David nods. Not absolution. Not redemption. Just the knowledge that guilt by design can be dismantled. One truth at a time.